What's up, everybody? Thank you for clicking on the video. This is a fair play review of season 2, episode 3 of Underground. The title of this episode is Ache. So y'all know I have a hard time being brief. I'm so detailed oriented when it comes to doing a review, but I'm gonna have to shorten it up tonight because I'm going to see Ricky Smiley, and he better be funny. But anyway, let's get started, shall we? First of all, this episode was basically focusing on Rosalie and Sting's situation. It was focusing on Sting's past and all the things that have gone into making her the person that she is of today, okay, or at that time. Rosalie is about her struggle, what she's going through trying to get away from the Patty Cannon gang, okay? So the beginning of the episode starts with Daniel. We find out that Daniel, the black guy played by Bokeem Woodbine, is actually Sting's father. And it's not a flashback in the episodes, but it's actually some backstory that they're incorporating into the episode so that we can know about Sting's past. He taught himself how to read, that's very clear. And at the beginning of the episode, it shows him reading to Sting from a newspaper. And what he is reading is Sojourner's Truth's poem entitled Ain't I a Woman? And at one point in the poem, he was telling Sting that, or he was reading that Christ was created by a woman and the Spirit of God, but man had nothing to do with Christ being born. And so young Sting asked him, she said, "Daddy, what does she mean by that?" He said, "That means that she's not only strong in body, or that you are not only strong in body, but you're strong in mind too." Okay, that's the end of that scene. So let's just talk about what's going on with Sting, because they talk about her first. Sting has hit a rock bottom in this episode. She is at the point of trying to kill herself, all right? During this episode, she is seeing hallucinations of Sam, her oldest son, who was actually hung by the master/lover in last season. And in the beginning of the episode, she's standing out in the middle of the ocean, just staring off. Now, you don't know at the beginning that she's getting ready to, or that she wants to kill herself, but you figure that out eventually in the episode. And Sam asked her, he says, "I thought you said Master Tom was going to be the last one." And she didn't respond. So the next thing you know, you see her leaving and walking away, everybody else working. She's just wandering off because she's good and high. Now, she done got high while she was in the ocean. She put that rag to her nose to inhale some of that drug that she's been inhaling. And the thing about it is, it seems like she only sees these hallucinations when she is high, of course. So she goes on and she is walking, and the overseer gets behind her. And he's calling her name because he's been looking for her. He's like, "Where you been?" And she ignores him and she keeps walking. And he keeps calling her. So at some point he snatches her and forces her to turn around and look at him. She stares him in his eyeballs like a snake. And he hauls off and he knocks the snot out of her mouth. Blood. Okay? Knocks blood out of her nose. She hits the ground. He pulls out his whip getting ready to beat her. But her boyfriend Hicks shows up and he basically stops her from getting whooped by the overseer, okay? He makes up the excuse that they are going, well, he didn't make it up, it's true, but he uses it as an excuse, the fact that him and Sting have been invited to go and perform at the big house that night. He was going to play the fiddle and she was supposed to sing. And subsequently, that gets her out of hot water with the overseer. So she gets up and she's fighting with, she struggles with Hicks just a little bit in that moment. And he's getting ready to hit her too because he's mad with her. He's like, "What you doing? I ain't going to keep covering for you like this." And she told him, "Ain't nobody told you to save me." So he pulls his hand back. He getting ready to hit her. She don't even try to block it. But he stops only because everybody else, all the other slaves, are walking around looking at him. He forgets where he is for a moment. But then he realizes that, okay, I'm in front of everybody. I can't hit her like that. So he eventually leaves her alone. And he asks her, he says, "You still mad about that gal, ain't you? The one he got pregnant and forced to have the abortion. Clara." That's who he's talking about. But Sting doesn't do anything but stare at him, and allows him to think that that's the problem. All right. So she goes on and she, the next thing you know is she's taking a bath, getting ready to getting all gusted up, getting ready to go to the big house. She fixing her hair, she gets dressed and puts on this nice pink dress and everything. Hicks is in the background getting dressed and everything. And she pours some more of this drug onto her rag and she inhales a big whiff of it. And even Hicks is looking at her because she's totally consumed with this stuff now. So even he looks over at her and frowns and tells her, don't you think you need to lay off that stuff just a little bit? Is we going to the big house like that? And she's like, you might as well. Why not go? So then he leaves, shakes his head and leaves, okay? Like he better than her or something. And so she notices Sam in the mirror. She sees him sitting behind her and he's there, basically has a conversation with her about the fact that she failed to protect him. That she belonged more to the master than she was his mother. And how she did everything master wanted him to do. She was his whore and everything, but it was more than that. He felt like she had a relationship with the master. This is what he's telling her. This is what her consciousness is telling her. That you had a relationship with him. And so she was questioning through, Sam's questioning her, which is her questioning herself about, well, why did you have Rosalie? She said that was for, basically for security. And he's like, well, what about James? And she said, I had him by accident. And that's why she did what she did, to make sure that she wouldn't have any more children like that. All right. And so he reminds her, I don't care how much control you think you had, because she tells him that everything that she did, she thinks that all the sex she had with the men was on her terms, when and where she wanted it, and that she was controlling things with Master Tone. But he told her, no, you weren't controlling nothing, because if you were controlling something, I wouldn't have wound up getting hung by the white man. So she's got to deal with that issue, okay? So she goes on to the big house. Next thing you know, you see them at the big house, her and Hicks. She's standing off to the side, waiting, I guess, on her turn to come in. Hicks is out there playing the fiddle for these white boys, okay? And they talking, having conversation among themselves, and one of them is getting him drunk. He keeps feeding him alcohol. At first, Hicks is okay with this, but then he's like, okay, don't y'all want to hear a song now? So Steen comes in, getting ready to do her song, and she starts singing, and she sings this. It's supposed to be an upbeat song, but it sounds kind of morbid, very twisted type song, but it's supposed to be a song to uplift white people is what it was supposed to do. And she starts singing, and then she starts dancing around the room and gyrating, and slightly gyrating. Wasn't no serious gyrating, but she starts being sexual, being sensual, which is what she's good at. She's sitting on the white boys' laps, and they are obviously hot and bothered and enjoying it. You can tell that they were a little bashful. And soon thereafter, her song changes, and she starts to sound real morbid. And she starts talking about black men getting hung and beat and everything. And she knocks the glass out of one of the white boys' hands. I mean, she becomes really uncontrollable at this point. She's singing loud and laughing, and she basically has a nervous breakdown in that moment. Hicks looking at her crazy. He stops playing and he's staring at her, and all the other black help is staring at her. Some of them even laughing at her. The white boys are looking embarrassed, they're ashamed, they even scared and nervous at this point. So Steven had a nervous breakdown, basically. So then they show her back at her cabin. Her and Hicks are there getting undressed, and Hicks mad with her. He cussing out. He's like, woman, what's wrong with you? You done got us in trouble at the big house. And she didn't care nothing about that, but he gonna haul off and they gonna start fighting. He slaps her around, and she's actually fighting him back at first. And she even picks up a wooden plank to hit him with, but he grabs that from her, and they struggle a little bit, and he hauls off and bam, busts her in the mouth again. And then she rolls around and she gets back up, and she tells him to go on and do it. He's finna hit her again. She tells him to do it. See, at this point, she done gave up the fight. She just do it. Just go on and do what you got to do. But he doesn't do it. He checks himself and catches himself in that moment. And he's like, woman, I don't want to hurt you. Why do you make me do this to you? And he crying. She laying on the bed exasperated and bent out of shape and everything. And so the next thing, she got blood running out of her nose, and she don't even care to wipe it off or whatever. And so he climbs on top of her, lays on top of her, and starts kissing all over. And as a lot of dysfunctional relationships go, Steen does what she does best with him, and they wind up having sex. And she's having flashbacks to a time when her and Rosalie were together and having fun. She just keeps having flashbacks of yesterday, okay? So, what else happens with Steen? So Steen is going through all of these emotions and flashbacks and seeing her past. She remembers when she was a little girl, about 12 years old, to where she was being raped by her master and other white men, and she goes to this black woman, another slave, for help, looking for birth control. And that character is played by Angela Bassett. And she tells Angela Bassett that she wants this birth control so she doesn't get pregnant, so that she can use her body. She thinks she can use her body to get what she wants and to protect her in life, because they taking sex from her anyway. And so Angela Bassett told her, your body ain't yours, and it never belong to you, and it never will belong to you. But she told her, you pretty enough though, so you might as well go on and use what you got to get what you want. So I don't know if Steen ever wound up with that birth control or not. Maybe so. But obviously she did, I guess. So they go off or whatever. So that was another childhood incident. So one day she was sitting out on the river, on the beach, getting high, like she usually does. And Preacher Man comes up to her. He's trying to talk to her, telling her she need to leave that poison alone. And she telling him, asking him why in the world he want to capture spirits in a bottle, because they do this ritual where they say they capturing spirits in these little blue bottles hanging on a tree. She's like, what you want to capture them for? It seemed like to me they'd be happier being free. And he's telling her this is what they believe in, the ancestors. It helps them to do this. And she said, what you mean help? It ain't never did nothing for you. It ain't did nothing for your daughter. It ain't did nothing for us. It ain't did nothing for us back in Africa. And she just basically refuting everything he claims about it. And he's telling her, you might not believe in the spirits, but they sure enough believe in you, like that. And so she just looking at him crazy. She ain't got nothing for him at this point. You know, she takes another whiff of her drug, and she just as high as she want to be, child. So that scene passes, okay? But like I said, we find out that that man is actually Clara's father. At one point in the show, they show Clara sitting down quietly and all stoked out and staring off. You could tell she's still in a bad state of mind after the incident that happened to her when Hicks forced her to have this abortion. She was still trying to recover from that. She's sitting there, tears coming down her eyes, but you got all these other black slaves in front of her, taunting her, picking at her, judging her, accusing her of being trifling and everything, and they trying to force her to tell her who the daddy is. And her daddy comes up, the preacher man comes up and tries to get her to tell who the father is too. And he explains to her, baby, we got to do this to you. We got to shame you because what you did was shameful. And he said, just tell us who the father is. Just tell us who did this. Now, at this point, I'm thinking to myself, what difference does it make who the daddy is? And they just, to me, remind me of just black folks that I'm used to going to church with and other black people who just want to get in your business. They just wanted to know who that baby's daddy was. It didn't really matter at this point. The girl had the abortion. It was over with and done. But he was saying that we're going to be here for you. We're going to bear this together and everything. But she never tells them, as far as we know. They don't show her telling them who the baby's father was. Okay? Steen is standing there watching this the whole time that this is going on. She has a flashback to when, another flashback to when she was, that's when she had the flashback to when she asked Angela Bassett's character for the birth control. Okay, so it goes on and things are still going on after she, remember now, she done had this conversation with Sam, so she's feeling real low, and you can tell that she's just, Steen just ready to give it all up. So close to the end of her storyline, they show her standing out on the beach, and she is got a big boulder in her hand, and behind her are the images or the hallucinations of Pearlie Mae, French, her ex-husband, or her husband that died, and Sam. And they all waving and blowing kisses at her. And when you see her with this rock in her hand, you know she's about to go ahead on and kill herself at this point. It's you don't even have to figure that out. It's the end for Rosalie. She got her hair, her fro blowing in the wind, and she's at peace doing what she's about to do. And so she walks off into the water with this rock in her hand. She smiles at her hallucinations, and she goes underwater. At some point, when she's deep enough in the water, she lets the rock go, and her arms flail in the air. So you come to the conclusion that she has drowned. But then all of a sudden, her arm reaches down in there and pulls her out of the water. And then on the outside, you got several black slaves, and Hicks is leading the pack, and he's helping to pull her out of the water with this rope that he's got tied to himself. So they pretty much save her at this point and bring her back to life. And I just hope that this is a turning point for Steen, and I hope that she comes back a better person than she was. I'm so glad that she's not dead, because she made up a lot of the storyline. She adds the excitement to the script, and I would just love to see her come out of her funk and just get herself together. I really want to see that, and I can't wait till next week to see what's going to become of Steen. Okay. Rosalie is on the run, of course. Patty Cannon and they gang, they think they killed her when they shot her last week, but they discovered that she's actually not dead, because they don't ever find her body, but they do find blood on the embankment where she escaped from. And Patty sends one of her workers, the one named Jack, she sends him to go and look for her. She makes him cross a cold river butt naked one day. And he goes looking for Rosalie. Rosalie is going through it. I mean, she's really, really having a hard time. Rosalie is out there in the middle of the woods. She's sick. She's got this hole in her shoulder, and she realizes that she's got to get this bullet out of her shoulder. So she sits down and she takes a knife and cuts into that wound. Oh my God, I was cringing for her. She cuts into the wound and she reaches her hand in and she pulls the buckshot out on her own. She's bleeding profusely, but she has to put something on it, like an antiseptic, something to cleanse the wound or to keep her from getting infection. So she decides to take gunpowder. She opens a gunpowder pack, pours all the black gunpowder on her shoulder, and she packs it on. So what she has to do next is ignite it. So she tries to ignite it with a match, but the match would not stay lit for some reason. Well, because the wind was blowing. And so then she decides, oh God, I got to get the gun. So she takes this gun. I said, oh, don't tell me she finna do what I think she finna do. So she takes the gun and she puts it up next to her shoulder. Turns her head. Now, at this point, I'm scared too. I'm nervous. I'm like, oh my God, she finna do it. She gonna do it. Well, she fires the gun. Bam! And this loud crack goes off. Her shoulder lights up. There's a little flame, and all the gunpowder is lit at this point. So it's doing what it's supposed to do to fight infection and whatnot. And basically, she goes deaf. Partially deaf. I mean, all she can hear is muffled noises, and she's got a ringing in her ear. So this loud cracking from the gun has left her with at least temporary deafness, okay? So she's all out of it. Oh my God. She lays on the ground and she just, she going through. The poor child is going through. So at some point she gets herself together. She goes and she's still walking. At some point she actually encounters Jack, the guy that Patty Cannon has sent to look at her. So she look for her. Well, she hears a gunshots off in the distance, and she knows that's them. They on her trail. So she decides to run and hide up under a bush on the ground. She stays low, and while she's low on the ground, this man comes by. He walks by. She sees his legs and his feet. Of course, we know that is Jack. He's hot on her tail. She stays there, and when he leaves or she thinks that he's gone, she runs out and she takes off. Boom, 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 boom. But he runs into her. He catches her. Lord have mercy. He caught her. He snatched her. He punched her. He beat her. He kicked her. He throws her around. She's fighting him the best she can. All this girl is going through. He even at one point lifts his leg up to stomp her. I'm like, Lord, please don't let him kill that girl or her baby. So he's going to stomp her, but she rolls out of the way real quick. So he pulls out his gun and he actually shoots at her. But she takes a stick, and she knocks the gun out of his hand just as he fires it. I'm like, boy, that's a fighting child. This is one more fighting child. She fights him. She gets away from, at that point, she gets out of harm's way because she knocks the gun out of his hand. But he grabs at her again, and at some point, she bites his ear off. I mean, literally bites his whole ear. Do you know how much strength it takes to bite somebody's ear off? Oh, she bites it off. He got this hole on the side of his head. He's screaming, blood running down. She spit the ear out, blood running out her mouth. At some point, he gets some strength and he grabs her, and she's laying on top of him and he's choking her. Okay? She gathers enough strength to go into her pocket. She pulls out a sharp knife, and guess what she does? She reaches back some kind of way and bloop, stabs him dead in his head through his eyeball. So she kills him. Stabs him in the eye and kills him. Okay, so she's laying there, exasperated, laying on top of him. She's won. She's succeeded in killing him, okay? Just to go back a little bit about Patty Cannon, before they actually found Rosalie, before this guy went to look for her, they were trying to figure out how in the world she got away, but Patty Cannon claimed she did not mean to kill her, and that's probably true because she needed her to be able to find Harriet Tubman. So the writer Donahue, you know, he's recording all this, and he tells her that he heard some scientists somewhere say that black women have an exceptional ability to endure pain and, you know, things like that, stupid stuff like that they believe about black people because they don't think that black people are human, of course. And it just made me mad in that moment. But this is what he says he heard. She had all this strength and she can bear pain. So anyway, and it appears that way, but what they don't realize is that Rosalie has strength of spirit, strength of character, and she simply has a will to live. She's pregnant and she's fighting for the life of her child, and she is trying to get to her man, Noah. That's enough to make you want to fight. You know what I mean? And not give up. So anyway, back to Rosalie. So Rosalie done killed this man. She goes off and she, at some point that night, or later on that evening, Patty Cannon and them discover Jack's body. And because they know that Jack don't have any family to claim him or that even cares, they decided they're going to bury him right where he is. But before they do that, of course, Patty Cannon decides to take a picture by the body because she's sick and morbid like that, okay? So, later on that night, they bury his body. And they put a cross there for a headstone, okay? So after they bury him, now all this time you wondering where Rosalie at. Okay, so once they walk away and leave the body, over about 10, 15 feet from where they buried Jack at, Rosalie comes up out of the ground. This girl has dug a shallow grave and she has actually slept in it. I don't know how long she did it, but she was obviously too tired and wore out and beat up from the fight from earlier to actually run. She knew that she couldn't really get anywhere like that. So she actually slept underground. She comes up out of the ground. She's, because you could tell she probably wasn't breathing very well up under there. She's full of dirt and just caked with mud and dirt is all in her hair. Oh, I felt so sorry for Rosalie at this point. I didn't know how much more I could take. It was making me nervous just to see this girl like this. It reminds me of some other movies I've seen, and it was just, it was just extreme. It was extreme what this girl was going through. So anyway, she gets up, she leaves, she walks on off, so she feels like she's a little safe. She goes and she sits down by the river, and the next thing you know, a rattlesnake comes up on her. Now remember, she can't hear good, so she couldn't hear him rattling. If she could have heard, she could have gotten away from him. But that snake creeps up on her and bites her square on her ankle. 2 big holes in her leg. She's struggling with the snake. She's screaming. She picks up a big rock, and she winds up killing the snake with the rock. Oh my God. So now she got to treat herself for that too. So Rosalie, I swear she's an apothecary. She's a doctor to her heart. Oh, that girl missed her calling. But she reached into her bag. She took that same knife and she had to cut her leg open, cut the womb open so that she can drain the blood out. And I forgot to tell y'all a little while before then that she was running. And after she had come out of the water the first time, she discovered that she had leeches all over her body. Ugh, leeches all on her stomach, all on her neck. Horrible scene, horrible scene. Well, the leeches, when they scared at that point, ironically, this time she needed the leeches. So she had to reach down on the riverbank and find a leech. And she had to put the leech to her leg because everybody knows that back in the day, doctors used to literally use leeches to draw out infection. So she was smart enough to put a leech on her leg, draw out the infection, and she eventually faints and she goes to sleep. So she wakes up the next morning. The leech has done his job. There's a fat, juicy leech laying on the ground. Ugh, he's not dead yet. He's still wriggling and everything. She picks him up and she bites him and swallows him, chews him up and swallows him. Ugh, gross. It was gross to her too. Don't know why she did it. They don't say. I don't know if she just had to do that. If the infection, you know, like the flu virus, you fight the flu with the flu. Maybe she was fighting infection with the venom. Who knows? Fighting the effects of the venom with the venom. Maybe she was hungry. I don't know. But anyway, she does that. She's sitting there and she thinks she's clear and free. And she's just resting there for a moment. After she's woken up and everything. And so the next thing you know, here comes Donahue, the writer. He sees Rosalie. He's by himself for some reason. And he sees her, and she sees him, and Lord have mercy, a tear rolls down her face. She sits there, and she's like, Lord, I done been caught. What else am I going to do? At this point, she just done gave up hope. They about to get her. She didn't know what was going to happen to her at this point. But miraculously, for her, the only thing Donahue does is reaches up under his coat. Now, we think he's going for a gun. But he reaches under his jacket, and he pulls out a canteen of water, and he gives it to her. Now, a lot of people might say he felt sorry for her and he wanted to help her. And I do believe that that was part of the reason why he gave Rosalie this water, because you could tell from his conversations with Patty Cannon in his interviews that he's not on the same page, or he don't really believe the same things that she believes. Totally. You could tell that when he talks to her. So I do believe he felt some compassion for Rosalie. But I also believe, based on the fact that he wants to write a good story, a best-selling book, and the fact that Patty Cannon wants a best-selling book, that he gave her the water to keep the story going. He wanted to keep her running from Patty Cannon so that he could have more to write about. Because if they caught her at that point, he wouldn't really have a storyline. So he wanted to, I think in a lot of ways, he wanted Patty to lose too. I think to some extent he wants her to lose, because the things that he's found out about her, I think, has made him not like Patty Cannon, okay? So anyway, he gives her the water, and she takes this water and she drinks it, and I promise you, it was probably like honey to her. She was so thirsty. It was like heaven in a canteen to her, okay? So that was a wonderful moment for Rosalie, and he actually leaves. He doesn't bother. He doesn't tell Patty Cannon that he saw Rosalie. He lets her go free. Okay, so whew, breathe. Okay, so the next thing you see about Rosalie goes to, she's out wandering around again, and she winds up in this area, this sort of clear area around some trees, because she's just looking around trying to see where she is. And I want to say she discovers another mark on a tree. And usually when she sees those marks, that's where Harriet Tubman and her have, has left something for her, a horse and a carriage. But she doesn't see a horse and carriage at that moment. She lays down and she looks up, but she does see one. I'm telling a lie. She did see a horse and a carriage. And oh my gosh, she was so glad to see it, but she doesn't immediately run to it. She lays down for a minute on the ground because the girl is wore out and tired. So finally she gets up, she goes over to the horse, and she hugs the horse's neck. She's so glad to see the horse, she hugs him. Okay? And she gets enough strength to climb up onto the wagon of the carriage, to the back of the horse's wagon, and she lays there, and I guess she goes to sleep. Now I was nervous for her. I'm thinking, okay, how's she gonna get away laying on the back of that carriage like that? Because if people see her, she gonna be in trouble. But the horse just trots on off like he knows where he's going, and she just lays back there and goes to sleep. And that's pretty much all you see of Rosalie at that point. Rosalie also had some flashbacks of her own during the episode. She had a flashback to where when she was a little girl, her and her mother used to jump on the bed in the big house. And that was just a happy moment that Steen had made it her business to have with Rosalie, because Steen told her to, no matter how hard things get, because things will get hard for her in life, that she needed to actually take some time and have good moments like that. So they jump in the bed for a little while and just enjoy each other's company for about 5 or 10 minutes. So that's pretty much the last you see of Rosalie. Now, Patty Cannon, the whole time she's looking for Rosalie and everything, I mean, this heifer is something else. She wants the writer to sensationalize the story for her. She wants him to just make it just real extreme. She wants him to hype up Rosalie's character in the story to make it look like Rosalie is this tough thing, and she has also realized that Rosalie is worth some money too, because she was part of the Making Seven. She has a flyer that has Rosalie's name on it, and so she realizes that, okay, this is more money, so that ups the stakes for her. And it's going to also make her look good in the book. She didn't catch not one slave, not one notorious slave being Harriet Tubman, but also another notorious slave, Rosalie, who was part of the Making Seven. So this is going to really look good for her, okay? All she cares about is fame and fortune, basically. And she makes comments to Donahue that lets us know that she not only catches slaves, but she also catches free people and makes them slaves too. So, well, upon this conversation she's having with Donahue, it made me do some research, prompted me to go out and look and see if Patty Cannon was a real person, because I had never heard of her, but something inside of me told me she was a real person too. So I go and I look her up, and I found out that she was not, she indeed was a slave catcher, but she was an illegal slave trader who actually was captured, thrown into prison, and given a death sentence back in 1829. She was a part of the Patty Cannon gang. All of them were illegal slave traders. And what they would do is they would actually steal other white people's slave property. They would steal the slaves, resell them on the black market, and they would also take free black people. Free black people. Well, not just free black people. Y'all, let me tell you, she takes free people and sells them into slavery. Y'all remember on the movie 12 Years a Slave, the main character, I think his name was Solomon. He was a free man that had actually been kidnapped by those two white guys and sold into slavery. And so Patty Cannon was doing what they did. She was an illegal slave trader. And so she tells Donahue that she has somebody that she knows that wants to catch Rosalie more than she does. So she walks outside, and you see them out at a rock quarry. It's a bunch of men in the chain gang, a bunch of slaves, and some white men. And I'm telling you, this is where you discover that Patty Cannon herself is enslaving men. So these are her slaves. That's why she was there. And that really just dawned on me like 5 minutes ago. But these are her people that she is enslaving, and she's going to sell off into slavery. Okay? So these men are out there working, and she shows Donahue the man that she says that wants Rosalie more than her. And that man is none other than the infamous or the notorious August Pullman from season 1. Now, a lot of people thought August was dead, but August, if you remember, about 3 seasons before the end, he was supposed to have died in the basement of the house of John Hawkins. When John Hawkins killed the U.S. Marshal that had sex with his wife, which he didn't know about. But when he killed the U.S. Marshal and he got out, supposedly the basement of the house collapsed, caved in. And supposedly August Pullman, who was down there, who had come to his house looking for the U.S. Marshal, he knew something was going on. He knew that this man was harboring slaves. He was supposedly to have died in the basement as well. But he didn't. You see him, actually, don't show his face, but you see him at the end of the episode getting out, coming out from the basement and walking out. And you knew that was August Pullman. The other dude was dead. So I have been wondering what happened to him. Well, he's still around, but Patty Cannon has him in her possession, and she got him on the chain gang. So this, y'all, even got good. It's going to be interesting. I can't wait to see. She going to let him go because she going to get him to help her find Rosalie. But I believe that he's going to have a change of heart. I do not believe that August Pullman is the slave catcher that they think that he is. He made it very clear in last season that the only reason he did that was for money, because he was poor. He was raising his son, and they didn't have very much money, so it was a source of income for him. And his wife was in the crazy house, so he had to pay to keep her locked up in this sort of nice mental institution. So, yeah, I think he's going to have a change of heart. He had caught Rosalie one time last season, but she shot him and left him for dead, but he made it. You can't kill him either. So obviously white people have a high tolerance for pain, and they can take a licking and keep on ticking too. Okay, y'all. That's it. I managed to do this in 33, almost 34 minutes. I cannot believe it. This has been a Fair Play review. Thank you for clicking on the link. And my next review will probably be Greenleaf, and I'm probably going to do a little brief one on Empire. I had already said that I would do a review if Empire is just so good that I can't help myself. And I tell you, that first episode was really, really good. So stay tuned for my review of Greenleaf, which is an awesome series as well. And also for a brief commentary on Empire. All right, y'all. Take care and have a good one. Bye-bye.